just in case we need to.
Yeah, that'd be good because I might get pulled away here shortly.
Okay, no problem.
Brilliant.
And it's going to be live. Hi, everybody on Facebook and the Daydreams and Possibilities. We are, unfortunately, there's a delay. So when we're having a conversation, if you have any questions, then do ask us in the comments below the video. And if you'd like to share it, we would really appreciate that. That helps us reach more people. And if you come on, please say hi, because that also helps us reach more people, because more people see the video and then they can hop on too. So that's the little intro. And Samantha Jones, my partner, is going to introduce herself while I share this.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so Tina's going to get us a little bit straighter on Facebook. I would like to say a massive thanks to everybody, both the ladies that have joined us on the call and also people who are following on the replay. So thanks very much for joining us to talk about our hot topic of receiving, which it's come off the back of conversations really that myself and Tina have been having for the last couple of weeks. It's been such a hugely energetically active period for so many of us. Could be labelled chaotic. Some of the days, particularly, the energies have been absolutely everywhere. And it's kind of led us to talking about self-love and self-care, and that got us onto the subject of receiving. And what that led us to then was we felt like this subject really resonated for us, and it was something that we wanted to delve into in a little bit more detail on a wider call. So giving people the opportunity to chip in if you would like to, but also to kind of just work through some of the tools that we've used to help us, A, become more aware of where we're not necessarily willing to receive or open to receiving, and that actually started to blow our mind. And the more we talked about that and the different areas of receiving, that sometimes we can have those barriers and those blocks, and like I said, also maybe go away from tonight's call with some tools and some of the processes that we've used to kind of help to lower our barriers and help us to be more open to receiving. So that's our intention. So for those who don't know me, I'm Sam Jones. I have worked in the corporate world for all of my working life since leaving school, and for the last 22 years in the construction industry. So really quite fast-paced, high pressure, often very stressful. So my detox is I like to, in my spare time, immerse myself in energetic practices, spiritual practices. I'm an Access Consciousness Bars practitioner and facilitator. I've also studied angelic Reiki. I'm studying at the moment Drew Yoga, which is amazing, and met Tina when I was doing my guided meditation leaders course. So that's what I do for enjoyment. And I think really to kind of touch on the daydreams and possibilities aspect from my perspective, for a long time, my experience was that I was relatively clear on the fact that I was aware there was something more that was possible for me. I also was very clear on what I didn't want, but didn't necessarily know what I did want or know how to get to a stage where I knew what I did want. Now, I made myself wrong for that for many years, but actually, Tina, you gave me a completely different perspective on that recently when you were talking about the whole contrast, which I think was an Abraham Hicks thing that we were talking about last night.
Yeah, so there's dualities in our lives. There's good, there's bad, there's life, there's death, there's right, there's wrong. So it's all duality. So there's also things that we attract to us, what we want and what we don't want. And so, but the beauty of it is we have to figure out what we don't want sometimes in order to figure out what we do want. And automatically, which is also the beauty of the universe, is that when we figure out what we don't want, the universe automatically knows what we do want. And so that gets put into a collective, they call it the vortex, where it's just waiting for us to line up with all this goodness in our lives and waiting for us to receive it. And so that's the deeper level of receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that is, if we're looking at the law of attraction, there's also a law of giving and receiving, and playing with that, we have to realize that there's that duality, giving and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be not just a great giver, but you also have to be a great receiver. And if you're not lined up with the receiving part of it, we pinch ourselves off from all the goodness that's waiting to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that brilliant? I think it's just stunning.
And it also means, I mean, how funny are we that, you know, like we do make ourselves wrong for these things as well, you know, but actually that contrast, once that penny drops and it clicks into place,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing to make ourselves feel wrong about, you know, it's all there to receive.
Yeah.
I think as well, what's really helped me in spending time with Tina is I've got one of those brains that's really kind of process driven.
Mm-hmm.
Very black and white.
Yes.
So what I would often struggle with, I've got a great imagination, but it's quite detail orientated.
Mm-hmm.
And I would find that when I was trying to get to that place where I was visualizing what I did want, I was struggling with that. So
Right.
the daydream concept that Tina, you really brought home for me, that helps me to drift off and get into that place where I'm kind of working with an energy
Mm-hmm.
rather than the detail.
Yeah.
And I love words and I love labeling things, and I still do that, but now I'm finding words and labels around the energy
Right.
rather than the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know?
the feeling and the essence of it and the beauty of it and the gift of it and the appreciation of it, and it's all about all of that. So the more we can feel into what we want, that's what keeps it in our existence and in our essence. And so that's going to draw it more and more to us and help us line up more and more with it. So that is definitely the beauty of it all.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And
it's
Patty's
like,
sharing that in receiving, you're also giving to that person, and that is giving. Does that make sense? Yes, it totally does, Patty. So this is what we're going to come to. Nice lead in.
so, and it's almost felt to me as I was kind of tuning into stuff today and thinking more about the topic of the whole conversation, it's almost like in my process driven brain, it's broken into two kind of things. One is the asks of the universe and how we then go about making ourselves more accessible to receive those. But the other is as well, just literally the little day-to-day acts of receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And this ties in exactly with what Patty's just commented on there, is when we're receiving from other people, and it might not necessarily be the receiving of money or a gift or a physical thing, like praise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does any of this carry any real energy for you? Because it definitely did for me. Praise, compliments, time.
Smile, just a simple smile.
Yeah.
A smile, yeah, absolutely. Somebody, kindness, yeah, just an act of kindness,
Mm-hmm.
or a gesture of kindness. It can really carry such a huge energy and make you really uncomfortable.
Well, so I live in the Caribbean on this small island called Nevis. And it has been tradition. I've been with my husband, who's from here, for 23 years.
Oh,
I've been coming for that long. And when I first came, the whole premise is to be very neighborly and community oriented. So you walk down the street or you're driving down the street, you're waving at people on their front porch, or they're hailing you, or we walked everywhere. We didn't have a vehicle for 6 years. So we were walking with the two girls in a pram or in their hand as they got older. And, there was somebody on the porch, we would say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And
That sounds
the
like the
girls then
70s.
picked it up too. But then we went back to the city, and the people were like, what do you want? Why are you saying hello? Why are you smiling at me? Uh-oh, what? It's so amazing that we're just so skeptical of the kindnesses and skeptical, like if you're a feminist, I apologize in advance, but when we've confused men from opening up a door as a gesture of we can't do it, and they think we're incapable, instead of just allowing ourselves to be treated as women and have that kind gesture. So it's those little things. Like, I've seen women argue with men over the fact that they opened the door for them. It's sad. So we have to be willing to receive those kindnesses and those small little gifts. And if you can't receive the small, you cannot receive the big. It's not going to happen.
There are so many different elements to that as well. As you're explaining that situation, there's just so many situations flash through your brain. Like, I'm thinking now, kind of rewind 14, 15 years ago when I met my husband. And I was almost really wary of letting him do anything for me, because it was like a badge of honor. That actually I was this really capable woman and I didn't need anybody to do anything for me, and it was almost like a sign of weakness to allow him to do. And I mean, really, what message was that sending to him?
Well, yeah, and then when you're really frustrated or you're tired because you just don't want to do it, he's not going to step in anymore because you've told him very boldly, you can do it on your own. So then we get upset. And Sherry says she's been married for 34 years and never really had to open a door. He raised our boys to do the same thing. Love how I'm treated. Yeah, that's beautiful. And honestly, so I was sharing with Sam, and I'm a little embarrassed about this, but Elton we have roses in our garden. So he would primp it and prime it and make sure it's watered, and he'd pay attention to it, and he'd come into the house with the rose and he'd present it to me, and I'd say thank you, but then I'd put it aside quickly because I was in the middle of doing something, or I was cooking, or I was getting ready to go in with a client or something, but I never really truly received it with appreciation. So he got tired of doing it, so he stopped because I wasn't giving him the gift of appreciation and excitement for having given to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really subtle, like we really don't realize. And just like children, like I read a story or watched a video where this young boy had gone out into the field with his dad, and he was all excited, and he brought mom wildflowers back, and he was proud as punch, and he's got them in his hand. He's like, mommy, look at what I brought back for you. And she was like, wildflowers? Oh, took them up and threw them in the garbage. Like, talk about crush the child. So we've got to realize that on the giving end, remember what we want to feel like when when we give a gift to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you like it to be received? If you would just brush it off to the side, or just kind of casually, or just kind of look at it and go, oh, thanks. Like, I had a cousin who would return gifts all the time. people stop giving to her.
Yeah. The same is true of the compliment thing as well. Like, I know I feel like I'm better at it now, but there have been times in the past when somebody has paid me a compliment that I've just not been ready to receive at all. And then what I found that I do, and I think, you know, there's an element of Britishness to this as well. You know, it's like you have to have this veneer. And I remember somebody complimenting me on the most, I mean, they are the most beautiful training shoes I've ever owned, and I've still got them. I adore them. But somebody complimented me on them, and I immediately started to play it down. Oh, well, you know, I got them in the sale and blah, 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 because I just was not ready to receive a compliment.
Yeah.
And the same with praise. And exactly as you were just saying, and to come back to Patty's original point, when you pay somebody a compliment, and as givers, you know, I think we're all quite good at doing that kind of thing, complimenting somebody when it's necessary, giving praise when it's necessary, in whatever environment. It's lovely to have that received with gratitude and with thanks. Yeah. And yet when it's us that's on the receiving end of it, you know, there's just a little bit of you inside that just cringes up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think that is?
I think there's a lot of it, I think, is to do with judgments that we've kind of grown up with. So if I go back to the badge of honor thing, I know my mum and her circle of friends, it was almost like a badge of honor for them as to how hard done to some people were, you know?
Yes.
So there's all that kind of judgment that's in there as well. And that really interested me, what Sherry was saying before about the way that she was able to receive the gestures that her husband had made throughout that entire time, as to what kind of environment that she saw growing up, actually, because that makes such a difference. Those judgments sometimes are just locked in from such an early age, aren't they, as to this is how you act. The sayings that we grow up with, money doesn't grow on trees, you've got to scrimp and save. It all kind of creates this air of things have got to be difficult and they've got to be a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember many times where my mom, when my dad left the family home, I was basically now her partner. And so I was expected on my days off to do all the cleaning and washing and dishes and I don't think cooking. But I hated vacuuming because we had a little puppy and the dog would bark at the vacuum because it was loud and he would chase it all around. I just hated vacuuming. So I would do all the things on the list except for that one thing. And what did she see? That one thing I didn't do. So the gratitude wasn't there for it either. So we're just taught not to be appreciated. And so when someone shows us that appreciation and our kindness, we're like, what do you want? What are you trying to get at? We're almost skeptical of it. Sadly.
It's like as if, I mean, you know, I felt the same in the business environment sometimes, and especially because it is quite a male-dominated environment that I work in. If somebody, praise is very hard to come by. And it's almost like that then becomes the norm.
Yeah.
So if somebody does go out of the way to praise you, yes, there's the immediate discomfort. They're like, oh God, what you know, what do I do or say, or how do I react to that? Because I can't receive it. But there's also that, exactly as you just said, what is the agenda that sits behind that? What is this person trying to achieve? There's got to be a reason for it. And it makes you really suspicious of people's motives as well. And all of that happens in that split second. And us as infinite beings, we just want to go, thank you so much, and walk away and be happy about it. But your mind kicks in and there's all these years worth of conditioning that kind of comes to the surface that just overcomplicates the whole process.
100%. Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's kind of crazy how we're so conditioned to actually question kindnesses.
Mhm.
I've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook saying, you know, be kind, especially with all that's going on in the world. And there's just people out there that really are struggling to
Asleep.
receive. Patty,
I
sorry.
said they're asleep. Don't want to wake up.
Yeah, and it's also they don't know better. I mean, I didn't know any better with my husband, and so I learned, but I learned because I was so bad at it. But I was willing to learn.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of people out there that just don't know the difference between it, and the importance of receiving. Because, like I said before, if we don't receive the little things, then how do we expect to receive the big things?
And we think it kind of gives us a certain element of control as well. It feels like maybe, oh, by controlling the little things and what we allow into our lives, that we're controlling the big things as well. But it just doesn't work like that, does it? You know, it's like really that barrier's down, kind of, right, bring it on. You know, yes, okay. There will be things that come into your life that you have to deal with and, you know, have to handle. But nobody can really have that element of control over the universe.
No, and it's a true gift.
Yeah.
So if someone compliments you, practice putting a smile on your face and saying thank you. And that's it. Like, there's no need for an explanation or, oh, you know, I just cleaned up, you know, I just had a shower, just washed my hair. Like, some of the women that I know and I've seen them stumble through compliments. It's, oh, well, you know, I clean up good, don't I? Or I just had a shower, or I just washed my hair, or I just had my hair cut or something. No, thank you. Thank you.
I feel like you have to downplay it.
Yeah.
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 Otherwise you're selfish or conceited or
Ego.
yeah.
Yeah, egotistical.
You're more afraid of what other people are gonna think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it really, I've done the receiving of a compliment for a while because it's been made to me aware to me for a few years, and it's great. Some young man, I was on my walk a couple of weeks ago, and some young man passed me and said, "Looking good." I said, "Thank you very much." My hard work paying off.
And doesn't it feel so much better as well when you do get to the stage where you can do that without micromanaging every little thought that pops up and just take it and just, you know, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and I had a smile for the rest of the walk. I mean, there was no way there was any love interest or sexual interest or anything, and not that I was even projecting that, but it was a nice compliment and I took it.
Good. I think as well, like, I've got kind of 3 tools in my toolbox that I use for this kind of thing, and it all comes back to this awareness issue. The more aware we are of the areas where we're struggling to receive, the easier it is. So what I've been doing is, number 1, it's actually triple A. Number 1 is ask. When I say ask, I don't mean kind of ask in terms of I'm waiting for an answer, but whatever your power is, whether it's yourself, your body, your being, the divine, the universe, source, whatever it is that you have that belief in, ask to be made aware that day of where you might be struggling to receive. So my questions of the morning that kind of bring me back to myself and back to my own energy and make me really aware of this is, what energy can I be today to be totally willing to receive everything?
Nice.
And the whole idea of asking that question is just, like I said, not to get an answer, although sometimes you do, but just to get the energy of it and just sit with that energy for the rest of the day. And then the second A is having that awareness. So you will, once you've asked that question, you've got it out there, you've got that energy out there, you'll become so aware of all the places where somebody has maybe tried to gift you something, even if it's just something little, and you've maybe backed away, or you've not realized until after the event that actually that was an opportunity to receive. And the key there is not to make yourself wrong about it, but again, once you're aware of it and you've shone that light on it, it doesn't exist anymore. The problem just tends to melt away, kind of thing. And then the last A, which is the most important, is to acknowledge. Acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. And for me, that comes in the form of journaling. So every single day before I go to bed, what I'll do, not just with regards to receiving, but it works exactly the same way, is literally acknowledge everywhere where I've created a little bit of magic that day. And if it was maybe like you were saying about receiving that compliment, you know, if you think maybe 5 years ago, you might not have been in a place where you could have received that in the same way. That needs acknowledging. And the more we acknowledge it, the more it exponentializes, and more magic can be created on the back of that. So it's huge for me. And I think people acknowledge things in different ways. Like for me, it's journaling because I love the written word. For some people, it's just speaking it out loud and really embodying that energy that, yes, today I achieved X, Y, or Z. And this time 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
I'm just going to have to move out of the way. The sun is actually shining in Cumbria, which is just like a once a year event. So I'm just moving.
Amazing how so my coach for a lot of years has always celebrated everything and encouraged us to celebrate everything, being grateful for everything and appreciate everything. And so I do gratitudes first thing in the morning and list them off at night before I go to bed. So I'm always feeling good, because if you're grateful for things, you've got to be in a good space, even if it's just the air we breathe, being able to breathe. I have a body that's functioning, you know, and if I have to go that deep, usually I'm in a bad state, but because I've been doing it for so long, I usually don't have to go to that simple basic stuff, but being grateful on a different level. So one of the things that you can also do is be grateful, but say what you're grateful for, or think it, and then go into detail. So I'm really grateful for the good sleep I had. I'm grateful for the bed that I'm sleeping on. I'm grateful for the comfort of that bed that I'm sleeping on. I'm grateful for the fact that, you know, the sun is shining when I wake up in the morning, and you just go with the flow. So when you get into that role of gratitude, Abraham and Hicks talks about like a 17-second momentum. So you can go momentum negatively, which most of us do, or we could go positively, which most of us need to practice. And so if you go into that momentum, then there's other thoughts and thinking and feeling. And by the time you get up out of bed, you're feeling great. So more great will come through your day. It just has to happen, because that's law of attraction.
Yeah. And that is such a different energy to the barriers up, trying to micromanage and control what is allowed to come and what isn't allowed to come, and that kind of real stressful energy, to barriers down. I am absolutely going to influence this in the best and highest possible energy and way that I can.
Yeah.
And it's a great energy to start the day with. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Patty, have you struggled with anything that we've talked about and you want to have any input?
In receiving, I was taught by a little 6-year-old girl the lesson of receiving, because their family, I had been going through a hard time with my family, and it was Thanksgiving. Their family wanted me over at their place. And I'm not really the crowd kind of person, because I wasn't really in a good place to begin with. I was like Debbie Downer, you know? So I said no, you know, I thanked them and everything. Will they call back again? Are you sure? This was like I think they were going to eat at 4, and this was like at 2 o'clock. I said, no, I'm okay. Well, at 7 o'clock, they brought the little girl over, the daughter. And she tore into me like you wouldn't believe, because I took away her blessing of her wanting me to come to her Thanksgiving dinner.
Wow.
So, yeah, I learned.
Yeah.
But even though you learn that, it's still hard because, like I said, you're brought up as a kid to not be conceited and not be selfish. And I think that's how a lot of people that are empaths like myself just give everything.
Right.
If anything, sometimes I overgive.
Right. And so what happens with that is we're left depleted. And usually not just depleted, but if, especially if it's just our spouses or our children, we're usually a little ticked off and annoyed and frustrated and angry because we have taken everything on because of that giving attitude, but we're not giving in a giving attitude. We're giving because we feel obligated or it's our job. And because of that, the dynamic in the family, in the home is so different because now I give out of joy. I give because I am mom, and this is the gift that I have to give my girls, so I can do
so
that.
So they could be a gift to somebody else.
Exactly. But I fill me up first in order for me not to be in that headspace of getting obligated and whatnot. So it's really important for us to love ourselves, see the worthiness, right? See the worthiness within ourselves. And it's just like being on a plane. So you know how the mask drops in the plane and they say you got to put the oxygen mask on first. And the reason why is because if we don't put it on first, we can't help somebody else because we've just passed out if we worry about our kid. So we do it first for ourselves, then we could do it for our kids, then we could do it for everybody else. So it's us first being self-honoring, not selfish.
Right, that's hard.
Yeah, it is, but it's practice. It's possible. And it's necessary.
Right.
Because if we don't, we become burnt out because we will have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
And the way to look at it is if you're overflowing with self-love and you've given back to yourself and you allow and receive from other people who want to help you, then you can give better back. It's just an amazing thing. I remember my husband one time, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I was trying to get all these things done because I had, I think, one day off when I was working at a hotel. I'm trying to do my laundry, plus I'm trying to cook, plus I'm trying to clean, and right? And so my husband stopped me and he said, Tina, take a breath. He said, you don't have to do it all. And I said, really? And my thought in my head was, well, why don't you do it then, right? But he was trying to make a point. He said, okay. So I took a breath and I said, so what do you want to do? See, donkey agrees with me.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah. Do you want to do the dishes or do you want to do the laundry? And he said, I'll do the dishes. So that was one less thing that I had to worry about. And he did it because he knew he was helping me out. So he was making me happy by helping me. So we have to allow our partners to help us.
I think as well, there's so much of this is about perspective, and that's what I've struggled with over the years, is what I tend to do is get so caught up in the stuff of my life that I think it is my life. So the job, the friends, the husband, the family, blah, 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 whatever might be the latest drama, it's all kind of circulating around me. But what I've tended to do is get in it. And now And I'll be perfectly honest, like all of the things and the tools and everything that I've learned over the last few years, the thing that I find the most helpful, practically helpful in terms of that perspective, is to meditate for half an hour every single day, come hell or high water.
Yeah.
Because what that does, as well as just the fact that it's just so good for you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually and energetically to sit in a darkened room for half an hour, who wouldn't want that, you know, with the chaos of our day-to-day lives? It brings me back to me, not the stuff in my life, not all the stuff that I've immersed myself and absolutely given my wholehearted self to.
Yeah.
It brings me back to me, helps me with perspective, and I can see things for what they are, not how they have a tendency to feel at the time, which is just completely overwhelming.
Right.
And also, coming back to the daydreams and possibilities thing, what that enables me to do is to see through the murk of whatever might be going on around me at that time, and see perhaps what those possibilities might be.
Yeah.
And it's only by really seeing through the murk and seeing that there are other possibilities that you can then start to lift yourself and kind of resonate at the energy of the future, rather than the energy of, you know, whatever's going on around you, which is so easy to get sucked into, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So what works with the universe? So our thoughts control our emotions, and it's important for us to be aware of our emotions so we can figure out what's the thought behind it. But what also is important for us to do is daydream. And if we take ourselves out of reality and allow ourselves to daydream, dream, desire, have hopes, have faith in something bigger than us, put ourselves into what ifs in a positive way. So what if I won $10,000? What if a friend of mine gifted me a massage? What if, and just play with it. There doesn't have to be realistic at all. That's the fun of it. It's just going wild with it. And a lot of us do the downward spiral. What if? Oh, what if I lose my job? What if I get a divorce? What if my friends don't agree with this? What if, you know, so you go into the downward spiral, but turn it around now and go into the possibilities. It is possible that you could win $10,000. It is possible that, and it probably has already happened, because when you desire it, it is actually happened already. It's just that we have to stay in the energy of it.
Yeah.
And that's trickier. Yeah. It's not always easy, and
Yeah.
it sounds simple, but it's not. So, but it's something that has to be practiced.
I think as well, like what I was doing before I became aware of it, and again, coming back to this, awareness is everything, really. I wasn't even vibrating at the frequency of my present life. What I was doing was vibrating at the frequency of what I perceived my life to be, which was a bag of crap compared to what it actually was. So because I was looking at it through the opposite of rose-tinted glasses, that's where I was. I was resonating down here, thinking, oh, I've got this terrible life and blah, 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 blah. And so my first task was not to start resonating at the frequency of what I wanted. It was just to start resonating at the frequency of what I actually, where I was.
Yes.
And recognize it and acknowledge it. And be like, do you know what? And again, that was where the perspective thing came in. Until I got to a situation where I was living in me and not living in everything that was going on around me, I couldn't see that. Yeah. And then I realized that actually, you know, I've got a lot to be grateful for. And once you latch into that, then all of a sudden things do open up a little bit and it is easier. And then again, because I've got that kind of process, very, you know, black and white brain, for me to get into a stage where I was kind of in that daydream place, I would think to myself, right, okay, if I could be anywhere within 10 miles of where I am now, where would it be? And immediately, you know, your body knows, your being knows, your energy knows. If I could be anywhere that was 1,000 miles from here, where would it be? And it kind of gets you in that habit of thinking bigger and being bigger. And like I say, you know the answers as soon as you've asked those questions, and then like kind of visualizing, right, so I'm there, I'm in my dream place. What am I wearing? What am I doing? What do I look like? You know, how is my hair? You know, blah, blah, and almost build like an avatar for yourself that just gives you something that's there, that's visualized to really aspire to, like your dream self, almost like an alter ego.
Yeah, and honestly, so if I look back on my life, I met Elton, and he always wanted to move back to the Caribbean, which is where he's from. So we had a plan that we were gonna eventually move back here. I married him knowing that eventually we would move back here. And it took us 10 years because I went back to massage therapy school. We bought a building because, again, it was not a dream necessarily, but it was a dream for me to have a business. So the choice was to buy the building because it was cheaper and we could renovate it and it was ours. So we did that. And because we did that and trusted that, even though we had no money to do it, we ended up selling that building at a really good price and end up being able to build now in the Caribbean and be able to pay for most of it ourselves instead of having a huge mortgage. And then our dream was to have the girls in tennis, and they're in tennis. So we have to allow ourselves to expand our visions so that we can, so I put a post in the other day. If we reach for the ceiling, the chances are we'll get to the ceiling. If we reach for the stars and the moon, we're going to break through the ceiling, maybe not reach the stars or the moon, but we might get close.
Yeah.
So why the heck not? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, really love that.
Yeah. Sherry, did you want to share anything?
Hi, I don't know how to get my picture on.
It's okay.
I'm actually loving what you're saying. Patty and I have known each other for like 3 years, and she invited me. We've never met, but we got together on this group coaching thing and kind of have been soul sisters since.
Nice.
I was actually supposed to go. I really appreciate everything you're saying. Unfortunate circumstances have led me to be out on disability. I had to give up teaching and stuff that I loved, and had to move away from my family because of chronic pain, and had to be in a warmer climate. So a lot of my last few years especially have been focusing on, like what Sam said, like I'm not even in the vibration of my life, because I'm dealing with regrets and, you know, what I wish happened. And my one son lives in Tasmania, Australia, and I'm in the United States. He's as far away as he could be.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to see him again. You know, this kind of stuff. And actually, like, I live in Florida. We built this house 3 years ago. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
We have this big cake, you know, like, I am actually, for the 5 spine surgeries that I've had and all the spine issues that I have, I've been told I should not have made it, or I should be in a wheelchair.
Right.
And I'm actually so friggin' blessed that I'm looking around at my life now. I have kind of like tears in my eyes looking at my house while while Tina was saying, you know, Sam was saying, you know, about I'm not even up to the vibration of my life. And I was supposed to go to Abraham Hicks thing on April 4th of this past year. And I had 2 dreams prior to signing up. That one, I was in the hot seat and I took a selfie with them, her, whoever.
Yeah.
And that I was going to be there and get in the hot seat and completely change my life.
Nice.
And then because of COVID, it was canceled the week before. But I'm like, that's okay. Like I'm good with it. And so anyway, I'm taking up everybody's time. But this, I'm loving this. I mean, I don't know who you two are. Like I said, Patty invited me, but I can really see where I need to work on things.
Yeah, and so Sherry, I took a course 2-3 years ago now, where at the beginning of the year, what the lady who was coaching us had basically had us go back over our year. And at the time I had some challenges with my husband, and we'd been fighting a lot, and we were just really struggling. And so that was my focus. So for me, that year sucked and it wasn't very good. Then, because I have a tendency to be on Facebook a lot, I post a lot of my memories, and that's also what she encourages you to do is have Facebook almost like a scrapbook. And so I started going over my stuff, and that year my daughter graduated from high school, and my other daughter did really great in school, and there were a bunch of other things. I had like 25-30 things in that year and counting that were amazing, but because it was in such it was in my focus that my husband and I were having struggles, I was willing to write that year off.
Wow.
So when we look at our lives, it's important to look at the things to be grateful for more than it is the things that we don't, or things that aren't working. Because if we're looking only at the things that aren't working, we're going to bring more of that into our lives and evidence of it. So it doesn't make any sense not to shift the focus. It just is going to make more good things come to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Sherry's story, it literally has given me goosebumps as you were just explaining the kind of things that you've lived through, because that's exactly the energy of, yes, there are things that happen that you can't micromanage or control, and they're going to happen to you, but you energetically, you don't have to be at the effect of them. Once you get into that place where you can wake up and be in that space where you're looking at that beautiful home that you've got around you and thinking, right, universe, what else is possible? That is such an amazing place to be. And that's what makes all the difference, that shift, isn't it?
Yeah, and I, you know, and I don't mean to focus on like the beauty of a home, because actually it's just kind of like four walls. But when I look at it, I mean, I have a husband who just like treats me like gold, and two boys that are just, you know, I'm so blessed. I really am so blessed, and you know, yeah. So that's so awesome, because it's like I can do that. I can. You know, and I have been doing so much better, because 2 years ago I said something I shouldn't have said at a doctor's office, and I was taken away for a suicide kind of thing. And I didn't mean anything by it, but because of the laws, they had to take me, you know.
But Sherry, because of the laws of the universe, you could also attract that into your life. So that's why it's super important that we figure out what those thoughts are behind our feelings, and pay attention to what we're thinking in the mind chatter. And when we verbalize, we have to be more consciously aware of what we're saying, because we are listening. The universe is listening. And if we say these things, then those are possibilities that could come into our lives too.
Yeah. So it's been a process. I'm doing so much better with it. I mean, I do need to just, you know, but yeah. So this is really beneficial. So thank you, and thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Sherry, I've got a question for you as well.
Yes.
So you've got a wonderful husband who treats you like gold and fabulous family and this wonderful home. Are you in a space where you're willing to receive more?
Oh yeah.
Cool. Cool, because that is half the battle, isn't it? Because sometimes we can get into a place where, I know I have been in the past, where I've been like, oh my God, I love my home and I'm grateful for this, this and this. What more could I ever ask for? Well, the universe just wants to give us more. That abundance.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great, because when all this was going down, and I have been, like, I always have in the back of my mind that because of like my disability and you know, because of things that happened, that all this could be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I have seriously had to work on. And, you know, because other things were, you know, and I'm just like, it actually took me until about 6 months ago. We've been here for 3.5 years, to really appreciate this home, because I didn't want to get too attached, because it was just going to get taken away.
Oh, that made me talk.
You know, so but that's like, you know, the limiting things. And, you know, growing up in them families that I grew up in, like, the more you sacrifice, I guess, the better person you are. I don't know, you know? So, you know, and you kind of come from a place of lack, even though we really never lacked. You know, I had a good life, but I'm not supposed to ask for more. So yeah, so that kind of really, you know, resonates. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to, like, this world is supposed to be great to me. Oh, okay. You know, like that's a foreign concept that I have to, you know.
Yeah, like who knew?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. And a really good question as well, coming back to the questions I kind of ask every morning, is not dissimilar to the one that I was on about before, but it's like, what energy can I be today to be willing to receive more than I have ever received before?
That's awesome.
And don't forget the bit about with ease, because that's, I forget about that bit sometimes. It's not meant to be difficult.
Right. That's awesome. I'm going to ask that every morning.
Yay.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that.
Tina, have you got anything else
to
talk about before we go?
No, I think it's just, I'm sitting here in awe, actually. I'm so happy.
Me too. Me too.
It's a conversation that needs to be had. It's a conversation that needs to be addressed on so many levels. And as women, especially, we have a tendency to think these things. And there's no judgment. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't open us up to the possibilities. It doesn't open us up to more. It doesn't open us up to having great experiences. And
here's an interesting thing, Tina, about spirit. That spirit is working with you. That is your guides working with you. When you say, hey, I should have been nicer to him, or, you know, you should have at least thanked them for the flowers, or something along those lines. That is your guide.
Yeah, fair enough.
So you do work with your guides. You just don't don't really acknowledge it. Yeah. But they're there.
Yeah, and honestly, it's probably because I think I'm thinking it.
Right.
And because I think I'm thinking it, it would never make the connection for me that it's a guided thought, which is really pretty awesome.
Have you ever thought of something you think, wow, where did that come from?
Oh yeah, many times.
That's guides.
Yes. Okay.
How interesting that we started having that conversation before the call while Patty was on the call as well, because it's the first time me and Tina have even asked questions of each other around guides and things like that. And you know, Patty, that's really interesting that actually you've got a whole wealth of experience and perspective on that it's just never something that I've worked with before.
I've had my gift since I was 6 years old.
Wow.
I felt spirit then, although I didn't know what it was. And growing up in a Catholic church, everybody thought I was Satan's spawn. I got so many exorcisms done on me, it isn't funny. But anyway, it was in a church that I just walked up to this little old lady that was crying, and I said, he's going to be okay. I had no idea. Like I said, I was 6 years old. I walked away. My mom asked me, what was that about? I said, I don't know. Something just told me. Now, my mom is like super strict Italian Catholic. I wasn't going to say I heard this little voice, right?
Right.
Well, 2 weeks later, we were in church again, and the lady came up to me, and she hugged me, and she said, thank you. I got a letter from him. And what it was her son that was missing in action and war.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
Wow.
they had come to her house and said, he's missing in action. He might as well get his affairs in order, blah, blah, blah. But she said in her heart, she knew that he wasn't dead. She couldn't let go. So after that, being 6 years old, I kind of became the black sheep right away.
Right.
Because they don't believe in any of that.
Well,
So
you
I
are
squelched it.
You are in a beautiful space and time right now, Patty, because your gifts are so needed and welcomed on so many levels to so many people.
Thank you.
You're
Patty, I love you.
I love you too.
Patty and I have bonded over this because I get things too. My messages come in dreams, and I get messages from people that have crossed to give their loved ones. And
which is how I started talking to you, pretty much.
Yeah. And it's so random. It's something that I wish would develop more. I mean, it might happen once a year. It might hahappen 3 times in a week. I never know.
Okay, so here you go.
It'll be when you're ready.
Daydreams and possibilities. It's
right.
possible, but you have to be willing to receive it.
Right.
So it's a lot of what goes on in our lives are decisions. And if we can decide that we're open to receiving and willing to receive, then those things will start to come to us.
And worthy to receive.
Yes. Yeah, but the worthiness is not because we're not worthy. The worthiness is because somewhere deep inside of us, we were made to feel like that.
Exactly.
So we were born worthy.
Right.
And the outside life, Sam and I have talked about this, the outside world has put layers upon layers upon layers of crap on us that we have to peel back to get to our essence of who we truly are. And in everything that happens for us, there's a gift. And so we have to start looking for those gifts. So even a negative situation, of an injury or a death in the family or something along that lines, there's always a gift. We may not be willing or able to see it at the time, but there is always something. If you have an attitude of everything is always working out for me, then it changes everything. It's a small shift, but it's powerful.
I'd made a note as well, and it feels like it was just made for this circumstance, what we were just talking about, and all the years worth of judgment that was built around the gifts that both Patty and Sherry have got. That is just so relevant to what we were talking about yesterday as well, Tina. And the note that I'd made was similar to what you've just said. Never underestimate the weight of this rubbish that we're carrying that is not even ours.
Yeah.
But it's not a life sentence. So once you start to get aware of what is and isn't yours, it is easy enough just to return to sender. Just that is not mine, and I am not living with that anymore.
Take it out of your mind. It's
absolutely. And quite a lot of the time, what we're resisting unconsciously from receiving, it's not the thing itself or the gift itself. It's the judgment that we know will come with it.
Exactly. Yep.
So if you know, Patty, that you've had a bucket load of judgment that is all linked in with what should be this wonderful magical gift, that you should just be in a position where you can really receive it in all its glory, but it's got all of this years worth of crap tied in with it. It's the judgment, isn't it, that kind of creates those barriers rather than the gift itself.
Yeah, and the more I wanted to learn, the worse I felt, because I felt like I was going against the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
So I would put those gifts away, kind of like put a cover over the light, you know.
Yeah.
But it just kept getting stronger and stronger, and my friends would say, "Okay, where are you at?" I'm on the fence. I'm confused right now. So, but it's really hard to use your gifts. I guess what I'm trying to say is I wish that I would have got on board with the whole thing while I was younger, and I could have used my gifts a lot more than what I have, I guess.
Yeah,
all those years. Yeah.
The beauty, and let's not look back and regret, because
no.
you did the best you could with what you had. I mean,
right.
That's the reality of it. And you were not encouraged. You're not in an environment where people embraced it and understood
right.
it and any of that. That is not yours. You don't own it. You let it go.
Right.
But the beauty of it now is you're an adult and you have a choice. So
and I'm stronger
you have to decide that this is something that is your gift you've been given from God's source, the universe, and that it is meant to be shone a light on and not dampened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember too that Louise Hay, she didn't start using her gifts and stuff until she was like what, in her 60s?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. She was a late bloomer. So I'm not at 60 yet. Be there next year. So I'm like, okay, I'm the next Louise Hay.
There you go.
And see that, Patty? Yep. Things started happening for her later.
Yeah. So what else is possible? What else is possible from this point on?
Yeah.
And what energy can you be to create the most magnificent outcome out of this? And it is literally giving me goosebumps, because the gifts that you two ladies have got, you've lit me up so much tonight. It's been wonderful speaking with you. Thank you.
Oh, you are so sweet. That's and you two have been amazing. And Patty too. This is the first time I've ever heard her voice, to be honest.
Really?
Cool.
Yeah, we just message each other back and forth.
I thought in Sue's, didn't I do a introductory thing tape?
I think so. That was a while ago. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know how you say you find your tribe. Sherry and I are so much alike, it gets scary sometimes. I could tell her something that she's going through because I'm going through it.
Right, because you're connected.
Yeah.
On an energetic level. And that's another gift. It's called clairescience. Is it clairescience?
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Which one's clairsentient? Is that sensing?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's very cool.
Very cool. It really is. Yeah. Wonderful.
I just get excited because I know more and more will come, right, Sherry?
That's right. Absolutely. And I want to be able to follow you two ladies as well. So I don't know.
So we created this beautiful page called Daydreams and Possibilities.
Okay.
So you're welcome to find us on there, and we're both have individual personal pages. We also have individual groups. So you're welcome to message us if you want to keep following us and connecting with us.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we have something exciting coming up. Next weekend. We are inviting everybody to join us. It's going to be a weekend virtual retreat called Daydreams and Possibilities, where we tap into the idea of daydreams and possibilities, become childlike and playful and fun, and letting down the guards and really tapping into our essence of who we are and what we're all about. And it's from Friday night until Sunday afternoon Eastern Standard Time, and from evening British Standard Time, Friday until evening Sunday.
Sunday
correct?
evening. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be awesome, and Sam and I are the hosts for that event, and it's $222 for the weekend. And if you need payment plans, great. We're willing to offer that, but it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited.
And it's a way of us trying to protect that time again. So to provide a little bubble where we are protected from the outside world and the normal pressures and all the rest of it, and we can just really kind of look inwards and focus on us, which sounds amazing.
Yeah. And we don't do often enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
So it's going to be lots of fun. If you want to join us, just message Samurai or again on the Daydreams and Possibilities page, and we'll give you all the details and you can get started.
And thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
joining.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Thanks for joining us, ladies. Appreciate it very much. Sam,
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thanks,
It's been
Tina.
awesome.
Yeah, it
ladies.
was good meeting you, Sam.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great to meet you two ladies as well. It was wonderful. And thanks, Tina. As always, awesome.
You're welcome. Okay, take care.
Bye
You
now.
too.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.